Have you ever felt like the world was against you, yet something deep inside kept whispering, "Don't give up"? What if I told you one woman went from a dirt poor childhood to becoming one of the most influential voices on the planet? We all have moments when life feels unfair, when the odds are stacked so high, it seems impossible to climb over them. Oprah Winfrey's journey reminds us that where you start does not determine where you can go. Her story is not just about success, it's about resilience, self-belief, and turning pain into power. Today, we'll walk through the moments that shaped her destiny and learn powerful English phrases along the way to inspire your own path. The world first knew Oprah as a warm smile on daytime television, but long before the lights. She was a little girl in rural Mississippi, born into poverty. Her home was a small wooden house, where winters were cold, summers were scorching, and food was never guaranteed. Raised by her grandmother, Oprah was taught to read before the age of 3, sparking a love for words that would one day captivate millions. But childhood wasn't kind. At just 9 years old, she endured abuse that could have shattered her spirit forever. By 14, she was a runaway, alone and desperate, and yet she refused to be defined by her pain. She clung to her education, winning a scholarship to Tennessee State University and landing her first job in radio at just 17. Her voice, filled with empathy and authenticity, caught the attention of television producers. Soon, Oprah was hosting her own talk show, transforming daytime TV into a platform for truth, healing, and empowerment. She spoke openly about her struggles, inspiring others to confront theirs. From there, the girl who once wore dresses made from potato sacks became a billionaire media mogul, philanthropist, and cultural icon. Her life is living proof that no matter where you begin, your voice, your story, and your courage can change the world. Oprah Winfrey's story begins in a place where the sun scorched the earth in summer, and winter winds cut like knives through wooden walls. Rural Mississippi was a world of dusty roads, ramshackle houses, and endless fields of cotton that stretched toward the horizon like pale ghosts. In this environment, a small girl entered the world in 1954, her first cries mingling with the chirping of cicadas and the distant hum of life. On a struggling farm, her birth was quiet, almost unnoticed, in a tiny wooden shack with a tin roof that rattled with every gust of wind. The walls were thin, the floors uneven, and warmth was a fleeting luxury. Poverty was not just a circumstance, it was a constant, almost tangible presence that seeped into every corner of life, shaping the people who called it home. Oprah's mother, Vernita, was a young woman barely old enough to be a mother, thrust into the immense responsibility of raising a child in the shadow of economic hardship. She worked tirelessly, often leaving home before dawn and returning long after dusk, her body weary and her heart heavy with worry. There were nights when the cupboards were bare, and the little girl learned the bitter lesson that food was not guaranteed, that survival was a daily battle. Yet even in these moments, there was a glimmer of something extraordinary, resilience that refused to be extinguished. The young Oprah clung to life with an insatiable curiosity, her dark eyes wide and observant, drinking in every detail of a world that was both harsh and wondrous. Her earliest memories were punctuated by sounds, textures, and sensations that would shape her perception of the world. She could remember the creaking of the floorboards beneath her tiny feet, the smell of cotton and earth after the rain, the faint, smoky aroma of cooking fires drifting from neighboring homes. Every sensation etched itself into her consciousness. Every hardship carved a lesson into her young mind. She learned to notice the smallest details, the way sunlight fell through the cracks in the shack walls, the cadence of the wind across the fields, the quiet determination in her grandmother's hands as they labored from sunrise to sunset. These details became the lens through which she would later view the world, teaching her that beauty and meaning could exist even in the harshest conditions. Despite the relentless hardships, there was love and care in the little wooden house. Oprah's grandmother, a strong and stoic woman, became her anchor. She had faced the cruelty of the world herself and knew the importance of instilling values that went beyond survival. She taught Oprah to read at an age when most children were still fumbling with letters, introducing her to the magic of books as both escape and empowerment. Through stories, the girl glimpsed worlds beyond her small Mississippi town, worlds where dreams were tangible, possibilities limitless, and courage could change destiny. The rhythm of reading, of words rolling off the page, became a quiet rebellion against the limitations imposed by poverty. Every day was a lesson in resilience. While other children played carefree in the fields, Oprah navigated a landscape shaped by scarcity. She learned early that life required more than hope. It demanded focus, intelligence, and the willingness to grasp every opportunity. The struggle to exist in a place where doors were often closed and resources scarce forged in her an unyielding determination. She observed people, listened to their stories, and absorbed lessons from every encounter. Even simple interactions, watching her mother barter at the market, listening to neighbors recount hardships, became instructional, teaching her about negotiation, empathy, and survival. Yet, there was also a constant awareness of inequality. In the segregated South, being a black girl born into poverty meant facing not only economic struggle, but social barriers that sought to limit dreams before they began. Oprah felt these invisible walls pressing around her, the whisper of "you cannot" lurking at every turn. But instead of surrendering, she internalized a quiet, simmering defiance. There was a seed planted deep within, a voice insisting, "I will rise. I will be more than what they say I can be." That seed would grow over decades, nourished by her experiences, by every challenge she faced, and by the unshakable lessons of her grandmother's guidance. Even as a toddler, Oprah's mind was a sponge, soaking in words, emotions, and lessons. She would watch people with an intensity that belied her age, noticing the smallest flickers of emotion, the subtle gestures that revealed truth beyond spoken language. This early observational skill would later become a hallmark of her storytelling, a way to connect with millions by understanding the unspoken, by empathizing with the deepest fears and hopes of others. Life in rural Mississippi was not just about surviving, it was about learning to transform hardship into insight. Oprah's early years were filled with moments of awe: the sight of fireflies at dusk, the sound of rain drumming on the tin roof, the taste of a rare sweet treat that felt like magic. These small joys became essential reminders that even in poverty, life held wonder. She learned to celebrate fleeting victories and to find meaning in the ordinary. This perspective, cultivated in the crucible of deprivation, would shape her worldview and her extraordinary ability to inspire others. By the time she reached school age, it was clear that Oprah's mind was exceptional. Teachers noticed her curiosity, her voracious appetite for learning, and her extraordinary memory. But even in these moments of promise, challenges abounded. Resources were scarce, classrooms overcrowded, and opportunities limited. Yet she approached each day with a quiet tenacity, absorbing lessons not just from books, but from life itself. Her intellect became both armor and torch, a way to navigate poverty while illuminating a path toward a future she dared to imagine. Looking back, those early days in rural Mississippi were more than hardship. They were the foundation of resilience, empathy, and vision. Poverty taught her discipline, adversity shaped her courage, and the small, loving moments with her grandmother taught her compassion and self-worth. Every hardship, every struggle, every fleeting joy became a brushstroke in the portrait of a woman who would one day transform the world. Oprah's story began in a humble wooden shack, but it began with the qualities that no hardship could take away: curiosity, intelligence, and a heart unbroken. That girl in Mississippi, barefoot and bright-eyed, was the beginning of an extraordinary life that would one day inspire millions. Her journey from that small shack to global influence was just beginning, but the lessons of her birth into poverty would echo through every chapter. That resilience is forged in the crucible of struggle. That knowledge is a powerful tool, and that dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, are worth pursuing with relentless courage. From the moment Oprah was entrusted to her grandmother, a formidable woman of unwavering strength and quiet authority, her life began to take on a shape beyond mere survival. Vernita may have been young and overwhelmed, but Grandma Hattie, as Oprah called her, carried the weight of generations on her shoulders. She knew hardship intimately, had weathered poverty, prejudice, and heartbreak, and she refused to allow her granddaughter to navigate the world without guidance. Every rule she set, every stern word she spoke, carried a lesson, a blueprint for how to navigate a world that was often unkind, especially to young black girls born into difficult circumstances. Hattie's discipline was exacting. There were strict bedtimes, clear expectations about chores, and unwavering standards for respect and behavior. There were no indulgences in excuses or self-pity. Weakness was not entertained. Yet beneath this seemingly harsh exterior was a wellspring of love, care, and determination to see Oprah rise. The small house, with its worn wooden floors and simple furnishings, became a sanctuary of structure, predictability, and unwavering moral guidance. It was here that Oprah learned that rules were not limitations, they were tools to navigate life with dignity, integrity, and vision. Grandma Hattie introduced Oprah to the transformative power of literacy. She taught her to read at an age when most children were struggling with letters, and she emphasized not just reading, but understanding the meaning behind the words. Every storybook, every newspaper article, every passage of scripture carried lessons about human nature, morality, and the possibilities that existed beyond the boundaries of Mississippi. In the evenings, as the sun dipped low and the shadows stretched across the fields, Hattie would sit with Oprah on a wooden bench by the small fireplace, guiding her fingers along the lines of text, making sure every word was absorbed, understood, and appreciated. Through these moments, Oprah discovered that knowledge was power, and literacy was her first step toward liberation. Hattie's teaching was deliberate. She wanted her granddaughter to understand that while the world might attempt to limit her, no one could ever take away her mind, her curiosity, or her capacity to learn. Each book became a small rebellion against the poverty and social injustice that surrounded them, a quiet assertion that even a child born into hardship could dream boldly. Hattie's lessons went beyond academics. She taught Oprah about dignity, self-respect, and the importance of speaking with clarity and intention. Every word mattered, every action counted, and integrity was non-negotiable. If Oprah wished to rise above her circumstances, she would have to master not only knowledge, but character. Hattie's guidance was not always easy for a young girl. There were days of tears, of frustration, of rebellion against what seemed like unyielding rules. Yet, in every challenge, Hattie was there, unshaken, demonstrating that love was not always soft. It could be firm, demanding, and unwavering. And it was within this discipline that true strength was forged. Beyond the walls of their small home, the lessons continued. Hattie made sure Oprah understood the world outside the subtle signals of prejudice, the unspoken rules of behavior in public, the ways to navigate authority and negotiate respect. She prepared her granddaughter for a world that would often judge her for her skin color, for her circumstances, or for daring to dream beyond expectation. This early mentorship instilled a keen awareness and an inner armor, an understanding that life required strategy as well as courage. Yet for all the discipline, Hattie's love was unmistakable. She celebrated Oprah's victories, no matter how small. The perfect recitation of a poem, a compliment from a teacher, a moment of insight discovered in a book. She encouraged curiosity, questioning, and imagination, balancing rigor with support. The lessons were holistic. Intellect, character, and emotional resilience were inseparable, each reinforcing the other. Through Hattie, Oprah learned that success would not be defined by wealth or fame alone, but by the strength of one's heart, the depth of empathy, and the courage to pursue dreams relentlessly. Even in the face of adversity, Hattie modeled grace. Under pressure, she confronted poverty with creativity, prejudice with resilience, and personal setbacks with stoicism. Oprah watched, learned, and internalized these behaviors, understanding that how one responds to life's trials often matters more than the trials themselves. The small acts of guidance, a firm hand on a shoulder, a corrective word spoken with care, a silent gesture of support accumulated into an enduring framework that would shape Oprah's worldview. For decades, Hattie's lessons extended into spirituality as well. The quiet prayers whispered over meals, the reflective conversations about morality and purpose, the emphasis on gratitude even in hardship all cultivated a spiritual awareness that would later become central to Oprah's public persona. She learned that faith was not a passive hope, but an active practice, a way of finding strength in moments of despair and clarity when life's path seemed uncertain. As Oprah grew, she began to recognize the immense gift she had been given. The strict love of her grandmother was the foundation upon which all other opportunities would be built. The discipline, guidance, and wisdom she absorbed in that small Mississippi home became the compass by which she would navigate every subsequent challenge. Hattie had given her more than survival skills. She had given her vision, resilience, and the courage to imagine a life beyond limitations. Even decades later, Oprah would reflect on these early years with reverence. The lessons were not always easy, and the path was never smooth, but the combination of discipline, love, and moral guidance had instilled a profound understanding of what it meant to persevere, to dream, and to honor one's own potential. In the quiet moments of reflection, she realized that her grandmother had prepared her not just to survive, but but to rise to become a woman capable of inspiring millions. A woman who could turn personal hardship into collective empowerment. In the end, being raised by a strict but loving grandmother was not simply a chapter of Oprah's childhood. It was the forge in which her resilience, intelligence, and compassion were tempered. Every word, every lesson, every moment of correction and encouragement became a stepping stone toward the woman she would become. Hattie's unwavering commitment to her granddaughter planted the seeds of ambition, integrity, and self-belief that would one day blossom into a life capable of transforming not only her own destiny, but the lives of countless others. Through this foundation, Oprah learned a truth that would echo throughout her life: love and discipline, when intertwined, can build strength greater than any adversity. It was in these early years, under the watchful eye of her grandmother, that Oprah began to understand the profound power of guidance, the beauty of structured love, and the limitless possibilities that awaited a determined heart. Long before the world knew her name, long before cameras, stages, and accolades, a tiny child sat cross-legged on the wooden floor of a modest Mississippi home, her small fingers tracing the letters of a worn book. At 3 years old, most children were learning to speak in complete sentences or struggling to recognize shapes and colors. But Oprah Winfrey was embarking on a journey that would shape the trajectory of her entire life. Her grandmother, Hattie, recognized the spark within her granddaughter: a relentless curiosity, a hunger for knowledge, and a mind that absorbed everything with astonishing intensity. It was in those quiet, dimly lit evenings that Oprah first discovered the transformative power of words. The books were simple at first, picture books with colorful illustrations and basic words. But for Oprah, each page opened the door to another world. She would run her fingers over the letters, sounding them out with deliberate care, her young mind connecting symbols to meaning, sound to sense. When she pronounced a word correctly, her grandmother's eyes would twinkle with pride, and a quiet nod or a firm smile became a seal of approval, reinforcing the habit that would become second nature. The small victories were celebrated with gentle words and encouragement, creating a rhythm of learning and achievement that would carry her through life. It was more than reading, it was awakening. Each story, each sentence, each new word introduced her to ideas beyond the confines of her immediate reality. She learned that imagination could take her anywhere, that knowledge could be both a shield and a sword, and that the ability to understand and communicate through words was a power no one could take away. While other children played in the dusty streets or chased after farm animals, Oprah was lost in worlds of princesses, explorers, inventors, and distant lands she had never seen. She discovered empathy through character struggles, courage through their victories, and the unshakable truth that storytelling could move hearts, change minds, and shape lives. Her early literacy became a sanctuary. The poverty that surrounded her, the uncertainty of food, the instability of her family life, the harsh whispers of a segregated society could not touch the world she entered through books. Words gave her freedom. With each story, she traveled far beyond the small Mississippi shack, beyond the endless cotton fields, and even beyond the limitations that society tried to impose upon her. The ability to read at an age when most children were still learning basic letters was not simply an academic achievement. It was a declaration of independence, a statement that she would not be confined by circumstance, that her mind was limitless. Grandma Hattie nurtured this spark with discipline and encouragement. She read to Oprah when the child struggled, guiding her through difficult words with patience. She asked questions, prompting reflection and understanding, ensuring that reading was not a passive act, but an active engagement with ideas. Words are power, child, she would say, her voice low and steady, and if you master them, no one can ever take your mind from you. The lessons were simple, but profound, teaching the young girl that literacy was more than a skill, it was a tool to navigate life, to advocate for oneself, and to shape one's destiny. Even at 3, Oprah's mind exhibited signs of extraordinary intelligence. She would recall passages from memory, repeat them with inflection and understanding, and sometimes surprise her grandmother with insights far beyond her years. The small shack became a classroom, the flickering candlelight a spotlight on a stage where the girl learned to command words, to appreciate their rhythm and power. Her curiosity was insatiable. She demanded more stories, more explanations, more ways to understand the world. It was a hunger that could not be quenched, a fire that would continue to burn brighter with each passing year. Reading also introduced Oprah to empathy and emotional intelligence. Through characters' triumphs and tragedies, she began to recognize the spectrum of human experience. She understood fear, joy, grief, and love in ways that transcended her age, absorbing lessons about kindness, courage, and moral choice. The ability to experience lives far beyond her own through the written word nurtured a compassion that would later define her approach to storytelling and leadership. She learned that every person had a story, every struggle had meaning, and that understanding others began with listening sometimes to words on a page, sometimes to the unspoken truths of life. The discipline required to master reading also taught Oprah about perseverance. Mistakes were inevitable, words were mispronounced, sentences misunderstood, but failure was not shameful. It was a step toward mastery. Each corrected error, each gently guided lesson instilled resilience. By learning to read, she internalized the principle that effort mattered more than natural talent, that persistence could overcome obstacles, and that early challenges were simply training for the greater trials life would inevitably present. As Oprah progressed, reading became not just a skill, but a lens through which she viewed the world. She connected ideas, drew inferences, and began to question the norms around her. Even as a toddler, she exhibited the hallmarks of the storyteller she would become: keen observation, deep curiosity, and an understanding that knowledge was both responsibility and liberation. Her mind, ignited by the early mastery of reading, became a fertile ground for ambition, creativity, and leadership. By the time she was 4, Oprah was already considered a prodigy in her small community. Neighbors would marvel at the young girl who could read newspapers aloud with clarity, who could recite stories from memory, and who spoke with a confidence unusual for her age. This early recognition reinforced a self-belief that would sustain her in later years, teaching her that even in a world that often dismissed black girls from impoverished backgrounds, exceptional talent could shine brightly and demand acknowledgement. Looking back, learning to read at age 3 was far more than an early academic achievement. It was a pivotal moment that transformed a young child's trajectory. It symbolized the intersection of love, discipline, and opportunity, a moment when guidance and innate curiosity converged to unlock potential. The spark ignited in that small Mississippi shack would grow into a flame that lit the path for a life of extraordinary influence, resilience, and empathy. Even in later years, Oprah would reflect on those moments with gratitude. The lessons of literacy extended beyond reading. They were lessons in discipline, focus, imagination, and the courage to step beyond what was familiar. The power of words, understood deeply and applied wisely, became a tool she would use not only to tell her story, but to empower millions, to create a platform where voices that had long been silenced could finally be heard. In the quiet moments of that early childhood, surrounded by the humble walls of her grandmother's home, a young girl discovered the boundless possibilities of the mind. She learned that knowledge was freedom, that perseverance was essential, and that every word could be a stepping stone toward greatness. The act of learning to read at age 3 was more than an accomplishment. It was the first chapter of a life destined to inspire the world. Even in the midst of early brilliance, Oprah's childhood was marked by shadows that threatened to snuff out her bright flame. Behind the small wooden walls of the Mississippi home, behind the sun-drenched fields and the warm laughter of her grandmother, there were moments of darkness that etched themselves painfully into her memory. As a young girl, she endured abuse and unthinkable weight for anyone, let alone a child so tender and sensitive. The innocence of youth collided with the cruelty of circumstances beyond her control, and yet, in that collision, seeds of resilience were quietly taking root. The abuse was a silent predator, lurking in corners where safety should have been guaranteed. At first, it came in subtle forms, gestures and words that confused and frightened her. Then it escalated into acts that left emotional scars deeper than anyone could see. She often asked herself, in whispered thoughts only a child could articulate, "Why me? What did I do to deserve this?" But even as fear coursed through her small body, a quiet inner voice resisted. Somewhere deep within, she knew that this darkness was not the sum total of her life, and that survival required not only strength, but vigilance and self-belief. Oprah learned early on that the world could be cruel, unpredictable, and unjust. Yet she also discovered that her own mind and heart were bastions of resilience. Even when terror or pain threatened to overwhelm her, she would retreat into imagination and learning, the safe havens her grandmother had nurtured. Books became more than entertainment. They became companions, mentors, and shields. Words on a page allowed her to escape the immediate horrors, to envision a world where courage and virtue triumphed, where the small and powerless could assert their strength and intelligence. The trauma she endured left deep emotional scars, but it also cultivated a sensitivity and empathy that would later define her public voice. She observed human behavior with heightened awareness, understanding early on the complex interplay of fear, power, and vulnerability. These experiences taught her to read emotions, to listen beyond words, and to recognize pain even when it was unspoken. What might have broken another child instead instilled in Oprah a profound understanding of human suffering, paired with the determination to rise above it. There were nights when she lay awake, small body trembling, heart heavy, wondering if the world would ever be kind. She questioned her self-worth, doubted her place in the universe, and wrestled with feelings of shame that were entirely undeserved. Yet even in those lonely, terrifying nights, she found a spark of stubborn belief that life could be different, that one day she could transform her pain into purpose. It was in these moments that resilience, the defining trait of her spirit, began to crystallize. Her grandmother's influence became even more critical during this period. Hattie provided the foundation of stability, love, and moral guidance that offered a lifeline. Though she could not erase the trauma, she instilled in Oprah the notion that strength was not the absence of fear, but the courage to persevere in spite of it. "You will rise, child," she would say, her voice firm but warm. "You have a mind, a heart, and a voice that the world cannot take from you. Remember this, and nothing can defeat you." These words, repeated and reinforced over countless days, became a mantra that Oprah carried deep within her consciousness. Even when the shadows seemed overwhelming, school became both a refuge and a battleground. Teachers noticed her intelligence, her precocious abilities, but few could see the invisible weight she carried. Yet, in her studies and interactions with peers, she learned to channel her pain into determination. Every book she read, every story she absorbed, was a stepping stone toward a life beyond suffering. Her mind became a sanctuary where she could reclaim power and build resilience, and where the experiences of trauma were transformed into lessons for empathy and understanding. Even as a child, Oprah discovered the transformative potential of storytelling. The trauma she endured heightened her awareness of injustice and human vulnerability. She began to understand that sharing stories could heal not just her own wounds, but also those of others. She observed the power of empathy and voice, realizing that truth, courage, and resilience could overcome fear and despair. These lessons would later form the cornerstone of her ability to connect with millions through her show, her speeches, and her philanthropic work. Despite the darkness, moments of light persisted. Small joys, a favorite song, a playful interaction with her grandmother, the scent of rain on the fields offered relief and hope. Oprah learned to cling to these fleeting moments, recognizing that even amid suffering, beauty and love existed. These experiences reinforced the principle that life was multidimensional. Pain and joy, despair and hope, struggle and triumph could coexist, and the capacity to recognize both was essential to survival. The trauma also demanded courage. Beyond her years, she learned to protect herself, to navigate situations with strategic awareness, and to rely on inner resources when external support was limited. These lessons of survival shaped her emotional intelligence, her ability to read situations, and her capacity to empathize without losing her own sense of self. Each encounter, each painful experience, became a lesson in resilience, shaping the contours of a character that would one day inspire millions. By the time she reached adolescence, the early trauma had left indelible marks, but it had also forged an extraordinary inner strength. Oprah emerged from those years with a profound understanding of human suffering, a keen observational skill, and a burning desire to create change not only for herself, but for others. She had learned that adversity could either define a person or refine them, and she chose the latter. The shadows she endured became the foundation upon which she would build empathy, wisdom, and transform into power. In the end, enduring childhood abuse and trauma was not simply a chapter of suffering, it was a crucible. In it, Oprah's spirit was tested, tempered, and ultimately strengthened. It taught her courage, empathy, self-reliance, and the power of inner voice. It prepared her to face future challenges with an unbreakable determination, to rise above circumstance, and to transform personal pain into universal inspiration. From these early, dark experiences emerged a woman who could illuminate the lives of millions. A woman whose story proved that even in the deepest shadows, light could be found, and that the human spirit, when nurtured and determined, is capable of extraordinary triumph. By the time Oprah approached her early teens, the world around her had grown increasingly complex. The small wooden house in Mississippi, once a sanctuary of discipline and love, now felt like a cage. The traumas of her early childhood, the strict guidance of her grandmother, and the harsh realities of poverty created a tension inside her, a restless longing for freedom, for escape, for a life where she could breathe without fear and define her own identity. At 14, that longing reached a point of urgency, and Oprah made a decision that would change her life forever. She ran away. The decision to leave was not impulsive. It was the culmination of years of struggle, heartbreak, and the relentless search for autonomy. She packed the few possessions she could carry, each item a tangible reminder of the life she was leaving behind, and slipped quietly into the night. The streets of her small town were unfamiliar, unforgiving, yet exhilarating. The wind carried the promise of possibility, but also the weight of uncertainty. For the first time, Oprah faced the world entirely on her own, with no safety net, no guiding hand, and only the instincts and lessons she had internalized in her early years. Running away was both terrifying and liberating. Each night brought the chill of vulnerability, the gnawing hunger of scarcity, and the constant anxiety of exposure. Yet, in this vulnerability, Oprah discovered an unexpected reservoir of courage. She navigated the streets with heightened awareness, learned to read people's intentions, and began to rely on her intellect and intuition in ways she never had before. Survival became an exercise in resourcefulness, and every challenge reinforced her inner strength. The world outside her home was harsh, but it also offered lessons that no classroom or household could provide. During these years, the realities of life as a teenage runaway were stark. There were nights when she slept in church pews, on worn benches, or in hidden corners, shivering under the cold embrace of the Mississippi sky. Hunger was constant, and opportunities to earn money were scarce. Yet even amid this hardship, she refused to let despair define her. The fire that had been lit in her childhood, the curiosity, the resilience, the drive for knowledge burned brighter than ever. She found small ways to nurture her mind, reading borrowed books whenever possible, and observing the world with the keen eyes of someone who knew every lesson was vital for survival. These experiences taught her the profound value of empathy. Oprah saw firsthand the struggles of others who were displaced, marginalized, or overlooked. She understood suffering not as an abstract concept, but as a tangible reality that demanded awareness, compassion, and action. The harsh streets became a classroom in human behavior, morality, and the power of perseverance. Each encounter, whether with strangers who offered kindness or with those who sought to exploit, shaped her understanding of human complexity and strengthened her ability to navigate adversity. In the midst of struggle, she also discovered the strength of hope. Even when circumstances seemed unbearable, she imagined a different future of life where her voice could matter, where her talents could shine, and where she could rise above the limitations imposed by poverty, abuse, and societal prejudice. That hope was not naive. It was deliberate and cultivated. It propelled her forward, giving her the courage to face each day, to take calculated risks, and to refuse surrender to fear. Being a runaway forced Oprah to confront her own identity in profound ways. Alone, she grappled with questions about self-worth, purpose, and destiny. She realized that no one could define her value but herself, and that the decisions she made in those critical moments would determine the trajectory of her life. This period of solitude and self-reliance was formative, shaping the determination, strategic thinking, and emotional intelligence that would become hallmarks of her character. Despite the dangers and instability, Oprah found moments of connection and mentorship that kept her tethered to the possibility of a better life. Teachers, family, friends, and mentors who recognized her intelligence and potential offered guidance, encouragement, and opportunities. These interventions, though sporadic, reinforced the belief that even in the most desperate circumstances, there were allies and opportunities waiting to be seized. She learned to recognize these lifelines and to grasp them with tenacity, understanding that resilience alone was insufficient without action. The life of a teenage runaway also intensified Oprah's spiritual awareness. She saw comfort and strength in prayer, reflection, and quiet moments of introspection. The uncertainty of her journey made her acutely aware of the fragility and preciousness of life, instilling a sense of gratitude for small blessings and an understanding that perseverance required faith, not blind optimism, but deliberate, conscious belief in one's ability to endure and thrive. Through this period of extreme adversity, Oprah's character was forged in ways that would shape her destiny. She developed an acute sense of observation, a sharp intellect, and the ability to navigate complex social dynamics. She honed the skills of empathy, discernment, and self-advocacy. Every challenge, every sleepless night, every pang of hunger, every moment of fear was transformed into a lesson in resilience and strategy. She emerged from this crucible with an understanding that life's obstacles could either define a person or refine them, and she chose refinement. By the time she returned to more stable living arrangements, Oprah had gained more than survival skills. She had developed the inner strength, courage, and vision that would propel her toward extraordinary achievements. The period as a teenage runaway, though filled with hardship and fear, became a defining chapter in her life story. It taught her that adversity could be navigated with intelligence and determination, that hope could sustain even in the darkest circumstances, and that the human spirit possesses a capacity for resilience beyond measure. In the end, running away was not a retreat, but a journey of self-discovery. It marked the beginning of Oprah's understanding that she could confront life on her own terms, that her circumstances did not dictate her future, and that every struggle could be transformed into a stepping stone toward empowerment. The teenage girl who braved the streets of Mississippi alone was laying the foundation for a woman who would later inspire millions, someone who understood, at the deepest level, what it meant to rise above adversity, embrace hope, and claim one's destiny. After the chaos and uncertainty of her teenage runaway years, a sense of clarity began to emerge in Oprah's life. She returned to a more stable environment, carrying with her the scars and lessons of survival, but also a rekindled curiosity and an unshakable desire to reclaim her future. Education became her sanctuary, a path out of darkness, and a bridge to possibilities she had only dared to imagine. The classroom was no longer just a place of rote learning. It was a battlefield where she would prove her resilience, intelligence, and determination. The transition was neither instant nor easy. Oprah had been through experiences that could have left her detached, disillusioned, or apathetic towards structured learning. Yet, when she walked into her first classroom after the tumult of her runaway life, something shifted. She recognized that education was more than a curriculum. It was a key, a tool, a way to transform pain into opportunity. Every lesson, every assignment, every teacher's expectation became a stepping stone, a small victory that reaffirmed her belief in her own potential. Her natural intelligence, already apparent in her early literacy, now found focus and direction. She excelled in reading, writing, and critical thinking, but it was her curiosity and analytical mind that distinguished her. She began to see connections where others saw randomness, patterns in chaos, and lessons in adversity. The classroom became a laboratory for her mind, a place to experiment with ideas, explore possibilities, and refine the inner voice that had guided her through early trauma. Beyond academics, Oprah began to rebuild her sense of self-worth. Her early experiences had left her questioning her value, but success in school offered tangible evidence of her capabilities. Teachers took notice of her intelligence, her eloquence, and her ability to articulate complex thoughts with clarity. Each compliment, each acknowledgement, became a brick in the foundation of confidence she had been nurturing in the shadows of hardship. With every book read, every essay written, and every challenge met, she was reconstructing the identity of a young woman capable of extraordinary achievement. Education also became a vehicle for hope. Oprah realized that through learning, she could change the trajectory of her life. The limitations imposed by poverty, abuse, and societal prejudice were no longer immovable walls, but obstacles to be studied, understood, and overcome. Each lesson offered insight into the broader world, each textbook a map to navigate possibilities that had once seemed unattainable. Knowledge became her armor and her compass, guiding her toward a future defined not by circumstance, but by choice and determination. Her renewed focus on education was reinforced by mentors and allies who recognized her potential. Teachers, counselors, and community members encouraged her, offered guidance, and opened doors to opportunities that she might never have found on her own. Their support, combined with her own relentless drive, created a synergy that fueled both her intellect and her ambition. She began to understand the importance of seizing opportunities and cultivating relationships that could nurture growth, a lesson she would carry into her professional life. Oprah's academic success was intertwined with personal growth. She learned discipline, time management, and the value of persistence. Each subject studied, each test prepared for, each assignment completed was a reaffirmation that her life could follow a trajectory she controlled. The chaos of her early years had taught her resilience. Now, education taught her strategy. She understood that intelligence without effort, potential without preparation, and talent without application would never be enough. Through education, she was building a life designed for impact, influence, and fulfillment. The transformation was not only intellectual, but emotional. School offered a structured environment where she could process her experiences, cultivate empathy, and develop social skills that had been disrupted by her early instability. Interacting with peers, engaging in discussions, and participating in extracurricular activities taught her negotiation, leadership, and collaboration. Each interaction was a rehearsal for the broader stage of life where communication, insight, and understanding of others would prove essential. Her journey through education reignited a sense of possibility. She dared to dream again, imagining herself not just surviving, but thriving. Scholarships, academic competitions, and recognition of her talents became tangible markers of progress, each reinforcing the belief that she was capable of achieving what had once seemed impossible. The hope that had dimmed during her runaway years now burned brightly, illuminating a path forward. Fueled by knowledge, effort, and determination, even in moments of doubt or fatigue, Oprah's inner voice reminded her of the stakes. Education was not merely a requirement, it was salvation, empowerment, and liberation. It represented a chance to rewrite her story, to reclaim agency, and to assert that her past did not define her future. Every lesson learned was a step toward self-actualization, a means to transform trauma into purpose, and a vehicle to harness the potential that had been nurtured since her earliest years. By the time she graduated from high school, Oprah had not only achieved academic excellence, but had also cultivated a mindset of resilience, ambition, and vision. She had rediscovered hope through education, understanding that it was the bridge between the girl she had been and the woman she was destined to become. Knowledge became both a tool and a symbol, representing the ability to transcend circumstance, to claim agency, and to shape a life of impact. In the end, rediscovering hope through education was more than a chapter in Oprah's story. It was a pivotal turning point. It was the moment when survival became strategy, when ambition was awakened, and when the trajectory of her life began to curve toward extraordinary achievement. From that foundation, Oprah would go on to seize opportunities, amplify her voice, and inspire millions, proving that even the deepest scars of childhood could be transformed into power, purpose, and hope. After years of struggle, resilience, and tireless dedication to her studies, Oprah Winfrey faced a defining moment that would mark the first tangible reward for her relentless perseverance. The possibility of higher education, once a distant dream shrouded in uncertainty, became attainable when she applied for a full scholarship to Tennessee State University. This opportunity represented far more than financial support. It was a symbol of validation, a doorway to independence, and the first official recognition of the brilliance that had been nurtured. Since her earliest days, the process was rigorous. Essays had to be written, transcripts reviewed, recommendations obtained, and interviews navigated. Each step demanded a combination of intellect, poise, and authenticity, qualities Oprah had honed through years of survival, mentorship, and self-education. She approached the application with a sense of determination forged by adversity, knowing that this chance could transform the trajectory of her life. She wrote with clarity, emotion, and insight, demonstrating not only academic ability, but a profound understanding of her own story, her struggles, and the purpose that had begun to crystallize within her. The day she received the acceptance letter was electric with possibility. She unfolded the crisp envelope with hands that trembled from excitement and nerves, the words within confirming what she had long hoped. She had earned a full scholarship. In that moment, the hardships of childhood, the nights of hunger, fear, and uncertainty, the discipline instilled by her grandmother, and the perseverance through her runaway years all converged into a single triumph. The scholarship was more than a financial lifeline. It was proof that her dedication, intelligence, and resilience had tangible power in the real world. Arriving on campus for the first time, Oprah was acutely aware of the weight of this opportunity. The university was a new world, filled with peers from diverse backgrounds, professors who challenged her intellect, and an environment that demanded both independence and initiative. For a young woman who had navigated so much hardship, the college experience was both exhilarating and daunting. She found herself at the intersection of possibility and responsibility, recognizing that the scholarship was not simply a gift, but a mandate to excel, contribute, and honor the sacrifices and guidance that had brought her to this point. Oprah immersed herself in her studies with the same intensity and focus that had carried her through childhood and adolescence. She understood that education was a tool for empowerment, a way to amplify her voice, and a means to transform personal experiences into professional expertise. Every lecture attended, every paper written, every discussion participated in became a stepping stone toward mastery not only of subject matter, but of the life skills required to thrive in a competitive, demanding environment. Beyond academics, the scholarship enabled Oprah to discover her voice in ways she had not experienced before. Public speaking, debate, and participation in campus activities offered platforms to express ideas, connect with others, and build confidence. For a girl who had once been silenced by trauma and circumstance, these opportunities were revolutionary. She learned to harness her experiences, articulate insights, and convey emotion with clarity and power, skills that would later define her career and her ability to inspire millions. The scholarship also provided a glimpse into a life beyond survival. For the first time, she experienced autonomy, the ability to make decisions for herself, and the freedom to explore intellectual and personal interests. It was a period of awakening, a time when her ambition, curiosity, and self-belief could flourish without the constraints of immediate survival. This freedom, coupled with her disciplined approach to learning, created fertile ground for both personal and professional growth. Oprah's presence on campus did not go unnoticed. Professors recognized her intellect and emotional intelligence. Peers admired her eloquence and charisma, and mentors began to guide her toward opportunities that would shape her future. The full scholarship had provided access, but it was her unique combination of talent, resilience, and empathy that enabled her to leverage that access into meaningful achievement. She was learning, in real time, the principle that opportunity alone isn't sufficient. Success requires action, insight, and the courage to seize the moment. Even amidst this newfound recognition, Oprah remained grounded. She never forgot the lessons of her early life, the discipline instilled by her grandmother, the empathy cultivated through trauma, and the perseverance honed during years of uncertainty. These qualities became the foundation upon which she built relationships, excelled academically, and navigated the complexities of college life. She understood that the scholarship was both a privilege and a responsibility, and she approached it with humility, gratitude, and unwavering determination. Winning the scholarship was also a profound affirmation of self-worth. It signaled that her struggles were not in vain, that her potential was real, and that her voice mattered. It offered tangible evidence that resilience, discipline, and dedication could transform adversity into opportunity. The scholarship was a gateway, a turning point, and a validation of the extraordinary promise she carried within her. In the larger scope of her life story, the full scholarship to college marked a pivotal chapter, the first moment where external recognition aligned with internal conviction. It was the bridge from survival to achievement, from hope to tangible possibility, and from a girl navigating the shadows of hardship to a young woman poised to step confidently into a world of influence and impact. This triumph set the stage for a series of breakthroughs that would eventually position Oprah as a pioneering media force, a powerful voice for empathy, and a beacon of inspiration for millions around the globe. Through this experience, Oprah internalized a timeless lesson: preparation meets opportunity, and when it does, extraordinary transformation becomes possible. She had endured trauma, hardship, and uncertainty, but her dedication to learning, her inner strength, and her courage had converged to create a defining moment of triumph. The scholarship was not just a ticket to education, it was the first step in a life that would demonstrate the boundless potential of perseverance, intellect, and heart. With a full scholarship securing her education and her ambition sharpened, Oprah Winfrey stepped into the world of media, a field that would ultimately become the canvas for her extraordinary influence. The transition from student to professional was a delicate dance demanding confidence, adaptability, and relentless determination. For a young woman who had endured poverty, trauma, and displacement, the world of television and broadcasting was both a dream and a challenge, a stage where talent met opportunity, and where her voice could finally resonate beyond personal confines. Her first role in media was humble, yet transformative. She started as a news anchor for a small television station, a position that demanded precision, poise, and stamina early. Mornings were long, scripts were complex, and the camera was an unrelenting observer, capturing every nuance of performance. Each broadcast tested her discipline and ability to think on her feet. Yet, in these initial steps, Oprah discovered a profound truth. Media was not merely about delivering information. It was about connecting with people, telling stories that mattered, and creating authenticity in every word spoken. The microphone became more than a tool. It became an instrument of empowerment. Oprah learned to channel her lived experiences into compelling narratives, to speak with empathy, and to engage audiences in ways that transcended the superficial. Viewers could sense her authenticity, her compassion, and her commitment to truth. Her early broadcasts, though modest in scale, revealed a budding talent for communication that combined intellect, emotional resonance, and charisma. It was here, in front of the camera, that she first understood the power of her voice, not just to inform, but to inspire. Oprah faced inevitable challenges in the industry. Being a young black woman in media at the time meant navigating systemic barriers, skepticism, and biases. She encountered colleagues who doubted her abilities, audiences unaccustomed to seeing someone like her in positions of influence, and the pressure of proving herself with every performance. Yet, these obstacles became opportunities to sharpen her resilience, refine her craft, and assert her presence with confidence and dignity. She had already survived far greater challenges. The scrutiny of the media world was a test she was prepared to meet head-on. Mentorship and guidance played a crucial role during this phase. Senior colleagues recognized her potential and provided advice, feedback, and encouragement. Oprah absorbed these lessons while simultaneously trusting her instincts and intuition, blending formal instruction with the wisdom she had cultivated through years of experience. She learned that mastery required both humility and assertiveness, a balance she would maintain throughout her career. Every critique became an opportunity for growth, every success a confirmation of her capability, and every challenge a proving ground for perseverance. The transition from local television to national attention marked another turning point. Opportunities to host talk shows and engage with live audiences presented themselves, and Oprah's natural charisma, empathy, and intellect became the distinguishing factors that propelled her forward. She understood early that media was not just about visibility. It was a platform for influence, education, and societal impact. Through each interview, each segment, and each live broadcast, she learned to craft narratives that were both informative and transformative, connecting deeply with viewers across social, cultural, and economic divides. Oprah's ability to transform personal experience into universal resonance became her hallmark. Stories of struggle, triumph, and resilience were no longer private. They were shared with audiences who found hope, inspiration, and validation in her voice. Her authenticity bridged gaps between diverse communities, and her empathy turned the spotlight into a space of inclusion, understanding, and dialogue. Early in her media career, she discovered that storytelling was not just entertainment, it was empowerment, education, and change in action. The technical mastery required in media articulating clearly, controlling tone, pacing, and body language merged seamlessly with her innate emotional intelligence. She understood that communication was multidimensional. That connection required both head and heart, and that influence stemmed from authenticity as much as skill. Her early broadcasts were laboratories of experimentation, learning, and refinement, each performance bringing her closer to the iconic presence she would eventually embody. Challenges continued, as media is a field of relentless scrutiny and competition. Yet Oprah's past had prepared her. She approached each obstacle with strategic focus, learned to navigate criticism, and transformed setbacks into stepping stones. Every misstep became a lesson in humility, every achievement a reinforcement of capability, and every broadcast a demonstration of perseverance. Her early career was a testament to the principle she had learned long ago. Resilience is forged through experience, and opportunity is maximized through preparation and courage. Through these formative experiences, Oprah solidified her identity as a storyteller, educator, and empathic voice. She understood that media offered a unique power, the ability to reach millions, to influence thought, and to elevate conversation. The microphone was no longer just a tool. It was a bridge between lived experience and collective understanding. a channel through which her life lessons could be shared with the world. In the end, starting a career in media was not merely a professional milestone. It was the realization of a long journey from hardship to purpose. It was the moment when survival, education, resilience, and ambition coalesced into the beginning of a transformative platform. Oprah had found her voice, and with it, she discovered the power to inspire, educate, and empower. This chapter marked the inception of a life dedicated not only to personal achievement, but to elevating the human experience, proving that the challenges of the past could be transmuted into a legacy of hope, courage, and extraordinary impact. In the mid-1970s, Oprah Winfrey's life entered a period of transformative visibility when she was offered the role of co-host for AM Chicago, a struggling local talk show in Chicago. For a young woman who had navigated the shadows of hardship, this opportunity was more than a career step. It was a platform to test her voice, authenticity, and ability to connect deeply with an audience. The show had low ratings, minimal acclaim, and little expectation for success. But Oprah recognized it as a canvas upon which she could paint a vision of meaningful storytelling and genuine human connection. The initial broadcasts were fraught with nerves and scrutiny. Cameras were unrelenting observers, co-hosts sometimes competitive, and audiences skeptical. Yet, even in the earliest moments, Oprah brought a rare authenticity to the screen. She spoke with sincerity, engaged with her guests on a human level, and conveyed empathy that resonated with viewers. Every smile, question, and reflection on the show was imbued with the wisdom and resilience that had been cultivated over years of personal struggle. The magic lay not in polish or technical perfection, but in her ability to make people feel seen, heard, and understood. Oprah's presence on AM Chicago rapidly transformed the dynamic of the show. Where others relied on scripted commentary or superficial banter, she offered genuine curiosity and emotional resonance. She asked questions that probed deeply into human experience, invited guests to share their vulnerabilities, and created moments of shared reflection that audiences had never experienced in daytime television. Her approach was revolutionary. She treated each story as sacred, each person as worthy, and each broadcast as a vehicle for transformation. Viewership began to surge. Chicagoans who had once tuned out the program now tuned in religiously, drawn by Oprah's charisma, empathy, and authenticity. Letters poured in from viewers expressing gratitude, sharing their own struggles, and acknowledging how the show touched their lives. For Oprah, the feedback was both humbling and motivating. It confirmed that storytelling, when rooted in truth and compassion, could bridge divides, foster understanding, and inspire hope. Behind the scenes, the work was grueling. Long hours, demanding production schedules, and the pressure to perform before cameras pushed her to her limits. Yet, Oprah thrived in this environment. The intensity of live television honed her instincts, sharpened her improvisational skills, and reinforced the discipline she had cultivated throughout her life. She learned that authenticity under pressure was a skill in itself, one that would define her future career and set her apart in a competitive industry. Her transformation of AM Chicago was not merely about boosting ratings. It was about redefining the very essence of local television. She moved away from shallow entertainment toward meaningful discourse, exploring topics that were often avoided: social issues, personal struggles, and stories of human triumph. Oprah's approach gave voice to the marginalized, spotlighted the overlooked, and infused daytime television with empathy and purpose. Viewers found themselves not only entertained, but also moved, educated, and inspired to reflect on their own lives. This period also solidified her understanding of the power of connection. Oprah recognized that television could be a conduit for empathy, allowing viewers to experience lives beyond their own and to feel a shared humanity with people they would never meet. Her interviews demonstrated that when stories are told with sincerity, compassion, and curiosity, they can resonate across barriers of culture, class, and circumstance. AM Chicago became a laboratory for mastering this craft, a place where she honed the skills that would later define her global influence. The show's success was meteoric. Within months, ratings soared, and Oprah's personal profile as a compelling host began to rise. Her ability to blend emotional intelligence with articulate communication created a unique television persona, someone audiences trusted, admired, and felt connected to. Colleagues and executives who had once been skeptical began to recognize her extraordinary talent, while competitors acknowledged the shift she had catalyzed in daytime television. Oprah's transformation of AM Chicago exemplified her lifelong philosophy. Adversity can be transformed into opportunity, and authenticity is the ultimate differentiator. Her lived experiences, the challenges of childhood, the trauma, the runaway years, the pursuit of education coalesced into an ability to empathize and inspire. Every guest interview, every heartfelt conversation, and every moment on camera reflected the depth of a woman who had navigated life's complexities and emerged with insight, compassion, and purpose. The success of AM Chicago became the springboard for her next chapter. Local recognition transitioned into national attention, and television executives began to see Oprah not just as a host, but as a force capable of redefining the landscape of media. The show's transformation demonstrated that a single person, armed with empathy, authenticity, and resilience, could shift paradigms, elevate standards, and inspire audiences to embrace both introspection and hope. In the end, hosting AM Chicago was more than a professional milestone. It was a proving ground for Oprah's voice, vision, and values. It was the moment when personal history, cultivated skill, and emotional intelligence converged to create impact on a scale previously unimaginable. She had taken a struggling local talk show and turned it into a beacon of authenticity, empathy, and inspiration. This chapter marked the emergence of Oprah Winfrey not just as a rising star in media, but as a storyteller with the power to transform lives, a voice capable of shaping culture, and a presence destined to inspire millions around the world. By 1986, Oprah Winfrey had transformed from a rising local sensation into a national phenomenon. Her extraordinary ability to connect with audiences, her authenticity, and her fearless exploration of human stories culminated in the launch of The Oprah Winfrey Show. This moment was the culmination of years of perseverance, sacrifice, and personal growth, a stage where her voice, honed through hardship, education, and early career challenges, would resonate with millions across the country. The launch represented more than a new program. It was a declaration that storytelling, empathy, and truth could captivate hearts and change lives on a scale previously unseen in daytime television. The early days of the show were intense, demanding, and filled with uncertainty. National television brought larger audiences, higher stakes, and more scrutiny. The pressure to succeed was immense, with executives, advertisers, and critics all watching. Yet, for Oprah, this pressure was familiar. She had navigated life-threatening challenges, homelessness, and systemic obstacles. The stakes of national television were significant, but they were now opportunities, a platform to translate her personal journey into a universal narrative that inspired, educated, and empowered viewers. Oprah's approach to hosting was revolutionary. She treated every episode as a chance to make a difference. Topics ranged from everyday human struggles to broader social issues: racism, poverty, health, personal transformation, and empowerment. Each interview was conducted with intentionality, empathy, and authenticity. She listened actively, engaged deeply, and created spaces where guests could reveal vulnerability without judgment. Her presence on camera was magnetic. Audiences felt seen, validated, and connected through her words. Millions realized that their own stories mattered, that struggles could be overcome, and that hope was attainable. The show quickly gained traction, and its influence grew exponentially. Viewers wrote letters sharing profound gratitude, revealing personal struggles, and acknowledging life-changing impact. Oprah became a trusted confidant for a nation, her voice carrying lessons learned through her own life, from childhood trauma to runaway years, education, and professional challenges. She demonstrated that success is not merely measured by achievement, but by the capacity to touch lives, ignite self-belief, and foster empathy. Behind the scenes, the production demanded discipline, creativity, and vision. Oprah meticulously curated content, selected guests, and shaped narratives to ensure that every episode resonated with meaning. She learned to navigate the intersection of art and responsibility, understanding that the story she chose to highlight had the power to inform public consciousness, influence perspectives, and inspire action. Each broadcast was a carefully orchestrated dance of emotion, intellect, and insight, a reflection of her strategic mind and empathetic heart. Launching The Oprah Winfrey Show also solidified her personal and professional identity. She had moved from survival to influence, from education to authority, and from curiosity to mastery. Her experiences had forged a rare combination of resilience, insight, and authenticity. She understood her platform's potential to educate, to inspire, and to transform society. Every segment, every interview, and every story was a testament to her vision that media could be a force for good, a tool for empowerment, and a mirror reflecting both struggles and triumphs of the human spirit. The cultural impact of the show was immediate and profound. Oprah's ability to address sensitive topics with grace, to illuminate injustices, and to celebrate triumphs created a new paradigm in television. Audiences, long accustomed to superficial daytime programming, were captivated by her depth, sincerity, and courage. She redefined what it meant to be a talk show host, demonstrating that influence is rooted in authenticity, empathy, and the willingness to tackle difficult truths. Oprah's success was not just professional, it was deeply personal. The platform allowed her to reclaim her narrative, transforming childhood trauma, teenage struggles, and early career challenges into a source of inspiration. She embodied the principle that adversity can be a catalyst for purpose, that resilience can be a springboard for impact, and that a single voice, when empowered by authenticity and courage, can create ripples of transformation across an entire nation. The show's influence extended beyond the screen. It catalyzed discussions on social issues, inspired charitable initiatives, and encouraged individuals to embrace self-improvement, self-awareness, and empowerment. Oprah had become a cultural force, demonstrating that storytelling, when combined with empathy and authenticity, could change both individual lives and collective consciousness. In essence, launching the Oprah Winfrey Show was the realization of a journey that began in hardship, survived trauma, and flourished through education, determination, and courage. It marked the point where her personal story intersected with the lives of millions, proving that resilience, authenticity, and purpose can redefine not only personal destiny, but the world around us. Oprah had found her voice, claimed her platform, and begun to illuminate the path for others. A luminous testament to the transformative power of perseverance, empathy, and unwavering vision. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Oprah Winfrey had emerged as more than just a talk show host. She had become a national icon, a trusted voice, whose influence extended far beyond the television screen. Her authenticity, empathy, and ability to connect with audiences had cultivated a profound level of trust, transforming her into a cultural force capable of shaping conversations, inspiring action, and giving visibility to voices that had long been ignored. Oprah's ascent was a masterclass in turning personal experience into universal impact. Every day on the Oprah Winfrey Show, she confronted issues that others shied away from: poverty, abuse, addiction, systemic injustice, and societal taboos. Yet, she did so with a balance of courage and compassion, refusing to sensationalize while ensuring that the story she told resonated with truth. Audiences felt her sincerity, recognizing that her empathy was rooted in lived experience. Her personal journey from childhood trauma to runaway teen, from scholar to media professional, imbued her presence with authenticity, making her both relatable and inspiring. Oprah's influence extended far beyond entertainment. She became an advocate, using her platform to promote education, literacy, health awareness, and social justice. Her book club, charitable initiatives, and public advocacy campaigns became vehicles to elevate marginalized voices, challenge societal norms, and encourage individuals to pursue personal growth. She demonstrated that influence is not measured solely by fame or financial success, but by the capacity to uplift others, amplify critical issues, and foster meaningful change. The transition from popular host to national icon was not effortless. It required strategic vision, emotional intelligence, and unwavering integrity. She understood that her voice carried responsibility. Every segment, every interview, and every decision could impact millions, and Oprah approached this responsibility with meticulous care. She cultivated relationships with thought leaders, authors, activists, and innovators, ensuring that her platform reflected diverse perspectives and fostered dialogue that could provoke reflection, empathy, and action. Audiences across the country resonated with her approach. Her ability to listen deeply, respond with insight, and highlight stories of resilience transformed her show into a space of empowerment. Viewers felt seen and understood, often recognizing their own struggles mirrored in the experiences shared. On the screen, Oprah's advocacy was not abstract, it was grounded in lived realities, in the understanding that personal stories have the power to inspire transformation, both individually and collectively. This period also highlighted her business acumen and strategic foresight. Recognizing the potential to expand her influence beyond traditional television, Oprah explored opportunities in publishing, production, and multimedia initiatives. Each venture was approached with the same intentionality and purpose as her on-screen work. She understood that her platform could become a force for systemic change, not just entertainment, and she carefully cultivated ventures that align with her vision of empowerment, education, and social impact. Becoming a national icon required mastering both public perception and personal authenticity. Oprah navigated the tension between fame and integrity with remarkable grace, refusing to compromise her principles for short-term gain. Her consistent commitment to truth, empathy, and empowerment solidified her reputation as a leader, mentor, and advocate. She demonstrated that influence is most powerful when it is aligned with moral clarity, intellectual rigor, and emotional intelligence. Her advocacy extended to marginalized communities, emphasizing education, health, and self-empowerment. She spotlighted issues such as childhood trauma, systemic inequality, and societal prejudice, fostering national conversations that challenged assumptions and inspired policy discussions. Oprah's ability to weave personal narrative with societal critique transformed daytime television into a platform for social consciousness. Her influence became both a mirror reflecting reality and a beacon illuminating possibility. The cumulative effect of her work during this period was profound. Oprah inspired millions to envision better lives, encouraged reflection on personal and societal responsibility, and modeled resilience, authenticity, and courage. She proved that a single individual, when armed with empathy, vision, and determination, could shift cultural norms, spark dialogue, and inspire collective action. In essence, becoming a national icon and advocate marked the full realization of Oprah's early life lessons. The girl who had survived trauma, hardship, and uncertainty now wielded her voice to empower others, transforming personal adversity into public influence. She had taken the lessons of resilience, education, and empathy and translated them into a force capable of shaping national consciousness. Through her work, Oprah exemplified that true influence is measured not by fame or wealth, but by the ability to touch lives, amplify voices, and inspire transformation on a societal scale. By this point, her trajectory was unmistakable. Oprah Winfrey was not only a media powerhouse, but a cultural architect, a leader whose legacy would extend far beyond her time on television. Her influence was grounded in the principles that had defined her life: perseverance, authenticity, empathy, and courage, and these principles became the foundation of an enduring legacy of empowerment and inspiration. As Oprah Winfrey solidified her position as a national icon, she turned her attention to building a legacy that extended far beyond the boundaries of television. Her life, once marked by hardship, trauma, and uncertainty, now served as a blueprint for empowerment, resilience, and transformative impact. Through philanthropy and initiatives designed to uplift others, she demonstrated that true influence is measured not by personal wealth or recognition, but by the capacity to create opportunities, amplify voices, and transform communities. Philanthropy became a central focus of Oprah's life. She established educational programs, scholarships, and foundations aimed at providing children and young adults with the tools they needed to succeed. The Oprah Winfrey Foundation and the Oprah Winfrey Operating Foundation exemplified her belief that education is a bridge to opportunity, a principle she had experienced firsthand. Every donation, every initiative, every effort was meticulously designed to empower others, giving them access to resources, mentorship, and inspiration that could alter the trajectory of their lives. One of the most notable manifestations of her philanthropy was the creation of the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa. Drawing on her own experiences of overcoming adversity through education, Oprah envisioned an institution where young girls could gain not only academic knowledge, but also the confidence, discipline, and leadership skills necessary to thrive. In a global society, the Academy became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that investment in human potential, particularly for marginalized communities, can create profound societal change. Oprah's approach to philanthropy was deeply personal. She understood the transformative power of opportunity, having been profoundly shaped by the support of mentors, educators, and advocates throughout her own life. Every initiative reflected this understanding. Programs were crafted to offer guidance, resources, and encouragement, equipping individuals with the tools to transcend circumstance. Her philanthropic work was not about charity in the traditional sense. It was about empowerment, sustainability, and creating pathways for success that others could follow. Through her philanthropic efforts, Oprah also emphasized the importance of emotional and psychological growth. She recognized that resilience, self-confidence, and emotional intelligence were critical components of personal development, and her programs incorporated mentorship, counseling, and life skills alongside academic training. She cultivated environments where young people could explore their potential, confront challenges, and emerge with the belief that they could shape their own destinies. Oprah's influence extended into social advocacy. She used her platform to highlight systemic issues: poverty, inequality, abuse, and lack of educational access, creating national conversations around solutions and reforms. By combining storytelling with actionable initiatives, she bridged awareness and impact, demonstrating that public influence could be harnessed to foster tangible change. Her work underscored the principle that visibility comes with responsibility, and that leaders who leverage their platforms for empowerment can catalyze generational transformation. Her philanthropic philosophy was inseparable from her personal story. Oprah's journey from poverty, abuse, and uncertainty to global recognition provided authenticity and credibility to her efforts. She was not an outsider looking to give guidance. She was someone who had walked the path, faced the challenges, and emerged empowered. This resonance inspired trust, admiration, and emulation, encouraging others to invest in themselves, their communities, and the potential of those around them. Oprah also empowered through storytelling. Through her media presence, she highlighted stories of ordinary individuals achieving extraordinary feats, overcoming obstacles, and making meaningful contributions to society. By sharing these narratives, she fostered a culture of possibility, encouraging audiences to recognize their own potential and pursue their aspiration with courage and conviction. Her influence became both inspirational and instructional, blending entertainment, education, and empowerment into a cohesive force for change. The scope of her impact was global. Beyond American borders, her initiatives reached communities in Africa, Asia, and other regions, reflecting a vision that transcended cultural and geographic boundaries. She demonstrated that leadership is not confined by nationality, race, or background, but is defined by the commitment to uplift others, challenge inequity, and inspire collective progress. Each initiative, large or small, embodied the principle that empowerment is contagious. Investing in one life can ripple across generations and societies. Through philanthropy and advocacy, Oprah also mentored the next generation of leaders, emphasizing the importance of character, vision, and integrity. She fostered environments where emerging talent could flourish, providing both guidance and example. Her commitment to mentorship extended to media professionals, activists, and entrepreneurs, cultivating a legacy of empowerment that would continue long after her direct involvement. In essence, legacy building was the culmination of Oprah's life lessons, resilience, education, empathy, and strategic action. She transformed personal triumph into collective opportunity, demonstrating that success is most meaningful when it elevates others. Every initiative, every donation, and every mentoring relationship reinforced the principle that empowerment multiplies when shared, and that investing in human potential creates enduring societal impact. By committing her influence and resources to philanthropy, Oprah ensured that her life story, one of hardship transformed into hope, would not only inspire, but actively create pathways for others to thrive. She had transformed her platform into a force for empowerment, demonstrating that leadership is not defined by personal accolades, but by the ability to elevate, educate, and inspire. Through her philanthropic vision, Oprah Winfrey became a living testament to the enduring power of purpose, compassion, and the belief that one person's dedication could shape the future of countless others. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Oprah Winfrey had evolved from a national icon into a global phenomenon. Her journey from childhood adversity to media leadership now encompassed not only philanthropy, but the creation of a media empire capable of influencing culture, shaping discourse, and inspiring millions across continents. She understood that her platform was more than a television show. It was a cultural instrument, capable of amplifying voices, highlighting stories, and creating a global dialogue about human potential, justice, and empowerment. The expansion of her media empire began with strategic initiatives in publishing, production, and network ownership. Harpo Productions, her production company, became a vehicle for both creative control and empowerment, allowing her to tell stories that mattered, produce content that resonated with audiences, and mentor emerging talent in media. Every project was infused with her philosophy, authenticity, empathy, and purpose must guide every narrative. Her approach redefined the industry standard, showing that commercial success and meaningful storytelling could coexist. Oprah's influence was magnified through her ventures in print media. The Oprah magazine became a cultural touchstone, offering inspiration, advice, and guidance on living purposefully through articles, features, and interviews. The magazine encouraged readers to explore personal growth, self-awareness, and social responsibility. Each edition reflected her dedication to uplifting others, fostering education, and nurturing empowerment. Her voice, now translated into print, reached millions who sought guidance, motivation, and affirmation of their potential. Television remained the cornerstone of her cultural impact, but Oprah strategically diversified her influence through talk shows, specials, documentaries, and media partnerships. Every project was chosen with intentionality, content that addressed social issues, explored human resilience, and celebrated achievement. She demonstrated that media could be both entertaining and transformative, capable of shaping culture, raising consciousness, and inspiring meaningful action. Her reach was now truly global, touching lives from urban centers in America to remote communities abroad. Oprah's global impact was amplified through her advocacy for critical social issues. She leveraged her media presence to spotlight education, health, equality, and empowerment on international platforms. By integrating storytelling with actionable initiatives, she bridged awareness and engagement, demonstrating that cultural influence carries responsibility. Her ability to humanize complex issues and connect them to universal experiences made her a trusted global voice, capable of fostering empathy across cultural, racial, and national divides. Her work also created opportunities for others within the media industry. Oprah's mentorship, production support, and guidance empowered new generations of storytellers, journalists, and creatives, allowing them to amplify their voices while adhering to the principles of authenticity and social responsibility. She transformed media leadership into a model of empowerment, demonstrating that influence multiplies when shared and nurtured through collaboration and mentorship. The cultural resonance of Oprah's media empire extended into personal empowerment for millions of individuals worldwide. Through her shows, publications, and public appearances, she encouraged self-reflection, personal growth, and a commitment to social responsibility. Audiences were not passive viewers, they were participants in a global dialogue about resilience, hope, and human potential. Her work catalyzed conversations, inspired action, and nurtured communities that valued empathy, integrity, and purpose. Her influence transcended media formats, touching literature, film, education, and public policy. She became a symbol of possibility, demonstrating that a single individual's vision, authenticity, and perseverance could redefine cultural norms and inspire societal transformation. Oprah's media empire was not merely a business venture, it was a platform for cultural leadership, advocacy, and the amplification of stories that mattered. Through this global influence, Oprah remained grounded in the lessons of her life. She understood that true power derives not from wealth or fame, but from the ability to inspire, educate, and empower others. Her empire was a reflection of resilience transformed into opportunity, personal triumph channeled into collective empowerment, and vision applied with intentionality to create lasting impact. By expanding her media reach, Oprah also ensured that her message of hope, courage, and perseverance crossed borders, languages, and cultures. She demonstrated that storytelling, when rooted in authenticity and empathy, has the power to transcend limitations, connect humanity, and inspire transformation on a global scale. Her journey from a disadvantaged child in rural Mississippi to a media mogul influencing the world became a testament to the power of perseverance, vision, and the courage to dream beyond circumstances. In essence, Oprah Winfrey's expansion into a global media empire exemplified the culmination of her life's principles. Resilience, education, authenticity, and empathy fueled every decision, guiding her toward impact that was both meaningful and enduring. Through strategic vision, leadership, and dedication, she created a legacy that extended beyond personal achievement, touching the lives of millions, inspiring generations, and reshaping cultural narratives around empowerment, hope, and human potential. By the 2000s, Oprah Winfrey had firmly established herself as a cultural icon, a figure whose influence extended far beyond television, media, or business. She had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of authenticity. Her life story, from a childhood marked by poverty, abuse, and displacement to the heights of global recognition, resonated with people across generations, inspiring countless individuals to envision possibility where none seemed to exist. She had become a living testament to the principle that personal triumph, when coupled with empathy and purpose, can create waves of change in the world. Oprah's influence reached into every corner of society. Through her shows, interviews, publications, and public speaking, she addressed pressing social issues: education, gender equality, racial justice, mental health, and poverty. She wielded her platform with intention, understanding that visibility carries responsibility. Every word spoken, every initiative launched, and every endorsement made was carefully considered, with the goal of inspiring change, fostering awareness, and empowering individuals to act. Her voice was not merely entertainment. It was guidance, advocacy, and empowerment rolled into one compelling presence. Generations of viewers, both young and old, saw in Oprah a reflection of possibility. Her journey offered proof that circumstances do not define destiny, that resilience and determination can overcome even the most daunting challenges. She inspired young people to pursue education, embrace their talents, and develop self-confidence. Adults found in her a role model who validated their struggles and offered strategies for overcoming obstacles. Her story became a template for navigating adversity with courage, integrity, and hope. Beyond personal inspiration, Oprah's work actively shaped cultural discourse. She brought difficult topics into mainstream conversation, challenging audiences to confront issues such as systemic racism, domestic violence, and inequality. Through careful curation of guests and stories, she ensured that marginalized voices were amplified, that awareness translated into empathy, and that empathy became a catalyst for action. She taught her audience that societal change begins with understanding, and understanding begins with listening. Her influence extended to philanthropy, mentorship, and advocacy. By supporting education initiatives, leadership programs, and global causes, she created pathways for empowerment and opportunity for future generations. Through mentorship, she cultivated a new cohort of leaders, storytellers, and social advocates who carried forward her principles of integrity, empathy, and perseverance. Her work demonstrated that legacy is built not merely through individual achievement, but through the empowerment of others and the creation of lasting societal impact. Oprah's cultural significance also lay in her ability to normalize conversations around personal development, emotional growth, and self-empowerment. She encouraged individuals to confront their fears, explore their potential, and embrace vulnerability as a source of strength. Her interviews were not just dialogues, they were lessons in courage, empathy, and the power of authentic expression. Millions saw themselves reflected in the stories she shared, gaining the courage to pursue their dreams and confront personal challenges with renewed determination. As a cultural icon, Oprah also embodied the intersection of influence and responsibility. She understood that her decisions, endorsements, and narratives could ripple across society. She approached this responsibility with care, prioritizing integrity, empathy, and positive impact over superficial success. Her brand became synonymous with authenticity, empowerment, and moral clarity, a rare combination in the sphere of global media influence. The impact of Oprah's advocacy is immeasurable. She catalyzed change in policy discussions, inspired social movements, and challenged cultural norms by using her visibility to address inequities. She demonstrated that leadership is inseparable from social responsibility. Her influence became both aspirational and actionable, teaching audiences that individual agency, guided by integrity and compassion, can drive collective transformation. Through decades of relentless dedication, Oprah Winfrey evolved from a girl navigating poverty and abuse to a cultural icon whose legacy inspires generations. She became a living blueprint for turning adversity into opportunity, for converting personal triumph into public empowerment, and for using visibility as a vehicle for advocacy and social change. Her story affirmed that greatness is measured not solely by achievement, but by the lives touched, the barriers broken, and the hope instilled in the hearts of others. In essence, By inspiring generations and advocating social change, Oprah solidified her position as a transformative figure in modern culture. Her life, work, and vision exemplified the extraordinary potential of resilience, empathy, and purpose. She became not only a media and cultural powerhouse, but also a moral compass, a beacon of possibility, reminding the world that one person's courage, authenticity, and dedication can ignite change across generations and shape the trajectory of society itself. As decades passed, Oprah Winfrey's life and career became more than a remarkable story. They became a symbol, a legacy that transcended generations, borders, and mediums. From the humble beginnings of a challenging childhood in rural Mississippi to her rise as a global media mogul, philanthropist, and cultural icon, Oprah's journey illustrated the extraordinary power of resilience, vision, and empathy. Her enduring legacy was not merely measured in wealth, awards, or accolades, but in the lives she transformed, the conversation she elevated, and the hope she instilled in millions around the world. Oprah's impact was multifaceted. In media, she redefined what it meant to host a talk show, blending storytelling, empathy, and authenticity to create programming that educated, inspired, and connected. Her interviews became more than entertainment. They were mirrors reflecting the human experience, illuminating stories of struggle, triumph, and perseverance. Viewers saw themselves in her narratives, finding guidance, validation, and courage to face their own challenges. The ripple effects of these broadcasts were immeasurable, inspiring careers, changing mindsets, and fostering empathy on a mass scale. Her philanthropic work further solidified her enduring influence. Through initiatives like the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, her foundations, and countless charitable projects, she created opportunities for education, empowerment, and leadership that continue to resonate. Young people who once faced impossible odds found pathways to success because of her vision and generosity. Communities benefited from programs she designed to amplify potential, nurture talent, and provide access to resources previously out of reach. Every act of giving was intentional, reflecting her belief that true legacy lies in the empowerment of others. Oprah's influence also extended to shaping culture and societal norms. She challenged taboos, opened dialogues on difficult subjects, and advocated for equality, justice, and human dignity. Through her platform, she highlighted systemic issues, encouraged civic engagement, and inspired individuals to act with compassion and courage. She demonstrated that visibility carries responsibility, and she wielded her voice to illuminate truth, celebrate resilience, and foster understanding across divides. Mentorship and inspiration were central to her enduring impact. By mentoring media professionals, activists, entrepreneurs, and emerging leaders, Oprah ensured that her principles, authenticity, integrity, empathy, and perseverance would ripple through generations. She modeled how to navigate life's adversities with grace, transform setbacks into opportunities, and use influence for the collective good. Each person she guided became a living extension of her vision, carrying forward her dedication to empowerment and positive change. Her legacy also lies in the countless individuals she inspired through her story. Millions who faced adversity, discrimination, or doubt saw in Oprah proof that circumstances do not define destiny. Her life exemplified that resilience, education, courage, and vision could transform limitation into possibility. Her narrative became a beacon of hope, encouraging people across the globe to believe in themselves, pursue their dreams, and contribute meaningfully to the world. Oprah's enduring influence is perhaps most evident in the cultural shift she catalyzed. She elevated empathy, encouraged reflection, and normalized vulnerability as a source of strength. By humanizing struggles, celebrating achievements, and advocating for justice, she reshaped the expectations of leadership, media responsibility, and public influence. The world began to recognize that authenticity and compassion could be as powerful as talent and intellect in creating lasting impact. Even as her media presence evolved, her purpose remained steadfast: to empower, educate, and uplift. Whether through books, speeches, interviews, or philanthropic work, she continued to inspire courage, resilience, and action. Her life demonstrated that true greatness is not defined solely by personal achievement, but by the capacity to leave the world better than it was found, to ignite hope in others, and to create opportunities where none existed. In reflecting on her enduring legacy, it becomes clear that Oprah Winfrey's life is a masterclass in transformation. She turned trauma into triumph, hardship into opportunity, and personal vision into global impact. She embodies the truth that a single individual, armed with authenticity, empathy, and unwavering purpose, can change the trajectory of countless lives. Her legacy is not confined to awards or recognition. It lives in the hearts, minds, and actions of the millions she has touched, inspiring generations to believe, act, and create a better world. Ultimately, Oprah Winfrey's story is timeless. It is a testament to resilience, a celebration of empowerment, and a blueprint for using influence to make the world a more compassionate, just, and hopeful place. Her enduring legacy is a reminder that each life, when lived with courage, purpose, and authenticity, can illuminate the path for countless others, proving that the impact of one determined and compassionate individual can indeed shape the course of history. Oprah Winfrey's life teaches us not just about resilience and determination, but also offers rich opportunities to learn English in context. For instance, when we say she transformed adversity into opportunity, the word adversity refers to serious difficulties or misfortune. You can use it in your own sentences. Despite facing adversity, she achieved her dreams. Similarly, the phrase hone her instincts means to sharpen or perfect skills through practice. In Oprah's case, she honed her instincts on live television, learning to connect with audiences genuinely. Another useful expression is catalyze change, to cause a process of transformation or influence significant change. You might say, a single act of kindness can catalyze change in someone's life. Also, when we describe someone as having a platform, it refers to a position or opportunity to express ideas or influence others. Oprah used her platform to spotlight issues like education, poverty, and empowerment. Finally, the term legacy represents what someone leaves behind that continues to impact others. In life, we all have the opportunity to build a legacy through our actions, words, and influence. By paying attention to these phrases and expressions, you could expand your English vocabulary naturally while drawing inspiration from real-life stories of triumph and perseverance. Turn challenges into opportunities. Life will throw obstacles your way, but your mindset can convert them into stepping stones for success. Like Oprah, let every setback teach and strengthen you. Invest in yourself and others. Education, skills, and mentorship are powerful tools. Empowering others as you grow multiplies your impact. Your success is measured not only by achievement, but by the lives you touch. Lead with authenticity and empathy. People are drawn to sincerity. Listen, understand, and connect genuinely, whether in personal relationships or professional endeavors. Seize opportunities with courage. When doors open, step through them with determination. Even if fear or doubt exists, growth happens outside your comfort zone. Leave a lasting legacy. Focus on actions that have enduring impact. The true measure of success is the positive influence you leave behind in the world. Oprah Winfrey's journey reminds us that no circumstance is permanent and no obstacle is insurmountable. From a childhood marked by struggle to a life that touches millions globally, she demonstrates the power of resilience, authenticity, and purpose. Today, you have the same capacity to turn trials into triumphs, to use your voice to uplift others, and to create a legacy that outlives you. Remember, your story matters. Your actions ripple further than you can see. Your potential is limitless. Step forward with courage, embrace your journey, and let the world feel the force of your resilience and your heart.